Ohio State is a 38.5-point favorite in its next game against Purdue on Saturday at noon on the Big Ten Network. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik. And that's Andrew Gillis. And these are our game picks. Stefan, where you going with this one?
Yeah, when I saw the line first come out, I was sitting there thinking, okay, come on, that's a lot of points. And then I wrote down my prediction 42-3, and I was like, I guess that's a cover. So I'll take Ohio State to cover. I'll take the under because I just this Purdue offense. I will say Ryan Day. I don't think he was lying when he was saying that this offense has shown some strides as the season has progressed. But I think this defense, I think they know that Oregon shut out Purdue, and they're going to try to show up and make sure they put up some impressive numbers as well. So 42-3 is my final. Ohio State's offense, I think, is going to be too much for Purdue to handle. And I think the running game, and Ryan Day on his radio show came out and straight up said that they're going to try to establish a run early against Purdue, which I guess isn't too surprising. Ohio State's done that a ton, but he was just pretty open about like, yeah, we're gonna run the ball early, and I think we're gonna see the time start to tick, and we'll see a de facto running clock in the second half. So I think Ohio State's going to pull away early and probably ease up, maybe not intentionally ease up, but I think the clock's just going to be ticking a ton in the second half. 42-3 is my final. It shouldn't be much of an issue at Ohio Stadium on Saturday for Ohio State.
So that's a cover and an under, which is 53.5 as the time we were recording this. I don't know if they can ease up. Honestly, I just think Purdue's that bad off. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out this full podcast. We had a special guest, a former friend, well, longtime friend of the pod. Come on, and he was explaining a lot about why things have gotten so bad for Purdue defensively, and a lot of it has to do with their offense and their inability to just like hold on to the ball. So that idea of maybe time of possession being in Purdue's favor, just to quick speed up the game a little bit or slow down the game a little bit, might not even be on the table. Plus, yeah, you can establish a run, but if Traydon Henderson sees a crease and now he's off for a 70-yard touchdown, you still established the run, but it's not like you controlled the game. It's just you just ran for 70 yards. If Quinshon Judkins stiff arms somebody into the ground and then says goodbye, 45-yard touchdown. I mean, I don't know what you do with that. I just see a lot of similarities in between some games that they had early on in the season where it's like, hey, how come the defense is on the field so often? Because the offense is scoring in one play, 75 yards in 9 seconds. And I think that's on the table here. You guys want to hear a fun fact, though?
I know Andrew does.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, fun facts, baby. It's been 2 years since Ohio State scored 50 points against a Big Ten opponent. And that used to just be what they did. Their season highs by year. And this is how I came up with my score. 73 against Maryland in 2019 in a 73-14 game. In 2020, 52-17 against Nebraska to open that season, and then 52-12 against Michigan State later on in that year. That was their season high against a Big Ten opponent. 2021 at home against Maryland, 66-17. So Maryland's just been on the bad end of some Ohio State offenses lately. 2022, 56-14 to Indiana, 56 is their high. And then last year, Andrew, against Purdue, that was their season high on the road, 41-7. So you add that all up, that's 288 points. That's an average of 57.6 points in their season high since Ryan Day took over as a head coach. While they're in those games, the opposing team has scored 10 points on average in those games. So I tried to take into account new clock rules, right? So it's a little harder to run up the score sometimes. So I essentially just took a touchdown away from both teams and came up with 50-3, barely missing on the over-under, but Ohio State covers pretty easily. And that takes into account a couple of things. I just think Ohio State's going to be explosive by tripping and falling into explosive plays. Purdue's just a very bad team. And that takes into account that maybe the second teamers get an explosive play and they get a chance to score too. And I just don't know how Purdue slows down Ohio State, and I definitely don't know how Ohio State doesn't slow down Purdue. I just think that's just going to be what it is. Plus, this is a team who has been in, and Nathan said this, Nathan Baird, used to be at cleveland.com. He said, Ohio State's been in 3 straight really tight games where it's been pretty stressful, and that's a bad place for a team who has no chance to beat a team that they're very much overmatched against to be in, because now what you have is an angry football team who's trying to let its hair down loose a little bit and just kind of run away with the game. And that's how this plays out. That was a long way of saying 50-3 Ohio State wins and covers, but doesn't get the over under. Andrew, what's your game score?
I'm going to go really bold. Purdue's going to score a touchdown. Ohio State 49, Purdue 10. I think Ohio State is the equivalent I would think of would be like if you've ever played baseball and you swing with like a donut on the bat, you swing with a weight on the bat, and then you go up to the plate, take the thing off, and all of a sudden the bat just feels a lot lighter. I think that's probably what Ohio State's feeling right now. I mean, because you mentioned, the couple straight games. Well, I think it even goes back a little bit to the Iowa game. That game was 7-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
And that was a game into the third quarter, and then Ohio State ran away with it in the second half. Then the Oregon game was obviously a game that went down to the last second, literally. Then the Nebraska game, they were losing in the fourth quarter, and something that nobody expected. The Penn State game came down to the last couple of plays, and Penn State had a chance to get the ball back at the end, and Ohio State ran out the clock. So this, to me, feels like the game where Ohio State can jump on them a little bit early, make this 21-0 by the end of the first quarter, into the second quarter, something like that. But I do think when you look at the schedule, this is the week that you're going to want to see a little bit of rotation defensively, right? Jermaine Matthews, Calvin Simpson-Hunt, I think those guys are going to rotate in a lot at corner. I think you're going to see a lot of defensive line rotations. Probably going to see a lot of CJ Higgs at linebacker. Like, look at the schedule. You have this week against Purdue and next week against Northwestern, and then you are done. There are no easy weeks left because you got Indiana, Michigan, and then after that, it's Big Ten championship game and playoff. So this is it. This is the week, and I think where you're going to want to rotate some guys. I think Ohio State's going to be trying a lot of different stuff. I think Purdue's going to maybe take advantage of that a little bit, but I do think Ohio State's going to jump on them early, and then we're just going to kind of see, a lot of rotations and a lot of kind of mixing and matching for the Buckeyes here as you try to get guys reps, because you're kind of running out of time. As crazy as it sounds, where you're kind of almost guaranteed a blowout game like this. So I think Ohio State's going to pretty much wipe the floor with Purdue. I think we're all predicting that, obviously. So Ohio State 49, Purdue 10. Much needed breather for the coaching staff and for the team, probably for the fan base too, to be completely honest with you. The last couple of weeks have been somewhat stressful for these people, and I think that this is the week where you kind of can just, like you said, Steven, let your hair down and just play free and kind of relax a little bit.
If you think the last few weeks have been stressful, Ryan Day, referring to the Jelani Thurman juggling catch, literally said it took a week off of his life. So that answers that.
He said he was about to throw up on the field. And then he says you got to move on. You can't stay sick for very long. You can't. You got to throw up and you got to keep it pushing. You got to keep it pushing. And it could be even more stressful. You could have not beaten an FBS team since last year and be 1-7. You could be that. It could be that. Always got to put things in perspective. So that's 3 covers, 2 unders, 1 over by a man who thinks Purdue is somehow going to score twice on Ohio State. Those are our game picks. Go listen to the full pod wherever you find Buckeye Talk, wherever you find podcasts. Go listen to the full pod. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you should be listening to the full pod. And then go watch the YouTube video just so you can see our beautiful smiling faces. And get the text 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Ohio State, Purdue on Saturday. Big Ten Network at noon for a chance to go 8-1. For Stefan, Krajisnik, and for Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.